is a very easy, Seoul is a very easy transit point, particularly what Korean has done to build out that hub. Asiana, from a standalone perspective, leading up to this, they had been struggling. I think the Korean Development Bank had put in some money and done some restructuring before. So really having a single airline consolidated at that flag carrier level, it really creates a kind of a national champion for them to compete globally. They're going to get the synergies. As a result of that, they're going to have still a very large cargo airline and presence, and at the same time, supporting competition. That it's not just going to be, controlled by Korean Air, but they've been able to address the various concerns.
Yeah, I think what's interesting about just kind of the Korean market and the combination of these two airlines is Korea and Seoul's quest to answer the question: are they a two airline hub or a one airline hub? Right? Are they Tokyo or are they Singapore? Even kind of Hong Kong in that perspective, and I think the difference there is Japan's very large domestic just feed and network. But I think obviously we have the answer for Seoul, and I don't think it's a bad answer. I think it's like Brian said. Would you say the 10th largest airline by fleet size now? Right. So you have the heft, and look, it's one fewer competitor. We can definitely call this consolidation, rationalization, whichever your flavor. And I don't see any reason why this won't be looked on over time after whatever challenges are forgotten as a success.
So switching gears to OEMs, and there has been one OEM in 2024 that has pretty much constantly been in the news, right? It feels like every few weeks there was something either negative or positive, but mostly negative, happening with them. So Boeing went through so much this year, right? They had the Spirit Aerosystems deal. They had the new CEO coming in. They had the labor strike, et cetera, et cetera. So let's just go through and unpack a bit of that and just understand what effect that's had on the ecosystem and what's next for them.
Yeah, so let's look back 12 months ago where we were, and we were saying all the same things about Boeing, and that was before the list of we even get to the list of challenges. Like, we don't go through the prior challenges because this year was so challenging. I think the one challenge with Boeing that I wouldn't say we all missed. I certainly missed, but should have been a little bit more aware to us was the strike. Right? We knew that this negotiation was coming. We knew that Boeing was in a very poor. They had very, very little leverage in the grand scheme of things in the context for negotiations, and it hit hard, and it wasn't like tossing a door out over Portland, was it? In that, I was going to say, well, it could have been Washington, but I think it was Oregon actually where and so. Look, I mean, things aren't great at Boeing, but now, far be it from me, I always have to caveat this. I'm no Boeing apologist, so don't worry about that. But it's so overcovered. It's so overdone, even. Boeing's terrible, and everybody has their own. Blame Douglas and do this and do that, and if I were in charge, right? Look, they've got challenges. They have deeper challenges after this year, but let's face it, they are too big to fail. And God help us if I'm wrong in saying that, because then we've got some serious problems. The Spirit. Look, everybody wants to buy a company named Spirit, apparently, but there are challenges there quality challenges. Again, in the context of coming out of COVID, I don't think people appreciate just the disruption that we came out of. And Boeing, again, coming out of that further disruption, self-inflicted, agreed, on the MAX grounding. But these are the types of things you would see. And in fact, quality issues are not limited to Boeing, right? This is a challenge across the entire industry. So here we say, I'm going to say the same thing I probably said last year, which is, look, it's still not existential to Boeing, and it will slowly improve from here. Now, I would have been wrong last year. I probably did say that, and I would have been wrong. But we'll see.
Yeah, I think just adding to what Courtney said. I mean, one, Boeing, it's a very big industrial organization and complex, right? So changes at Boeing are forthcoming, but candidly, they just take time. It is a very big proverbial ship, right, to turn. And I think the early moves by Kelly since he's become CEO and what he's kind of outlined, they seem to be the right moves. You know, it's really focusing on the core of the business, selling off non-core businesses, right sizing the business to really ramp up production on aircraft. And ultimately that's the key, right? Is to get the deliveries up and to get the aircraft delivered to the airlines. That's, at least on the commercial side, that's what's going to move the needle for them. You know, I think on the culture side and so forth, that's going to be something that truthfully they have to address, and it will take some time. But I think, you know, for Kelly, for his management team, setting these goals and setting this vision at a high level and letting the business execute on it, it's going to be really important. And so I'm hopeful that 2025 will be a good year for Boeing and the team, and that, you know, he's set out a vision and a path that's going to be executable.
I'll offer a slight adjustment to that. My hope is that 2025 will just be a quiet year for Boeing.
Yeah, sure.
Nothing happened. That's what somebody asked me. What does Boeing need to do? Nothing. Like, just have nothing happen for a while. Just head down, do your stuff, and which we said last year. And then, of course, you know, there was a spontaneous emergency exit, I think we could call it. So that's what they need, just time.
Yeah. And I've had the privilege of seeing Kelly's leadership style firsthand when I was back at Pratt & Whitney, right? I was in a couple of meetings, and really him being selected just was sort of a breath of fresh air to some extent. And you can kind of see, to Brian's point, you can see the moves he's made, and they seem like the step in the right direction. So one of my questions here was, what is the next milestone that Boeing is going to be measured against, right? Is it the 787 delivery rate? Is it what's happening with the 777 next? Is it, you know, how many MAXs are grounded at the end of 2025? What's that next yardstick that we need to look at?
From whose perspective, the public's or the airlines or the employees?
Maybe both, maybe all three, maybe
Yeah.
just different yardsticks as well, right?
Yeah, I think delivery rates for the airlines, right? And that comes with the assumption of delivering airplanes with all 4 bolts in each of the door plugs and no quality issues, and that's just kind of the given. But getting those delivery rates back to a point, and look, I mean, there are now real signs that Boeing missed the shortage